Welcome back to the big issue. I had to take that break so that we could just do one or two things, discussing the bill that is currently before Parliament, called the Proper Sexual Rights and Ghanaian Family Values Bill. It's a big debate this week between proponents and those who are against it. And right now, I was just listening to Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh, Executive Director of the Citi. Prof, please continue. Thank you for your patience.
So I think the point I was making on the culture issue is that you don't just do a poll and then you say that the majority feel this way, so that is the culture. That is the majority's preference. Our culture has a lot of diversity in it on any particular matter. It has nuances in that matter. I gave the example of our culture promoting, encouraging, almost pressuring women to give birth, and actually pestering couples who have been along, together for long and have no kids. Hey, when are you going to have kids? But that is not to say that those who make a different choice not to have kids, for example, if they are women, that the culture does not tolerate them. So that is the point I want to make about toleration. And I give, again, examples in our culture where we may find men who cross-dress an object of amusement, but they walk the streets freely. We may call them names, we may taunt them, Kojo Besia, you ask people in Kumasi who grew up in whatever, whether it's Asante music or Fanti music, they may tell you some history of that. Some of you call you Babem, but nobody would think to criminalize that behavior. They were the exception to the rule, but they were not considered evil for that reason, or they were not considered as people who must be objects of criminalization. So that's the point I'm making. Now, there are a number of other issues that have been put on the table, including from our church, the theological argument. I seriously struggle to see the theology of compassion, the theology of redemption, the theology of grace that actually Jesus Christ, for the Christian side, preached and taught in the position, right, in the position of the Ghanaian church on this matter, right? Because, and they single out the biblical disapproval of the behavior of Sodom and Gomorrah and the like as the prime example of this. But let us not forget that in Leviticus, for example, in Deuteronomy, many different areas of those scriptures, that adultery, for example, was forthrightly condemned. Okay? And not just in very plain language, but the punishment that was prescribed in those texts was the stoning to death of both the adulterer and the adulteress. And yet, when we meet Jesus Christ in the New Testament, he exemplifies the theology of compassion, of redemption, of grace by demonstrating what you do with an adulteress. And he admonished the people, not just his own example, but he says, you who is without sin cast the first stone. That is the theology that I expect the church to come to this question with. But when the church makes common cause with political interests and to marshal the force and the power of the state to condemn as criminals and to put in jail and to subject to all manner of inhuman treatment persons who are otherwise have not caused anyone any harm, have not actually committed any harm against a third party. When you as the church make common cause with worldly government to criminalize those people, to cast them out of society, to make them social outcasts, to make them second-class citizens, I fail to see the theology of Christ in that kind of conduct, right? There is absolutely church has every right to participate in public affairs, but not everything Christian, not everything Muslim is fit for public legislation. There are certain things that the church has full right to do from the pulpit. It can preach against sin. It can do what it can to bring the people it considers sinners within its fold and to try and preach the word to them. The Great Commandment certainly the Great Commission commits the church to that kind of a mission. What the Great Commission does not commit the church to is to leave that kind of theology and then make common cause with worldly governments, as if God really needed that kind of help, right? To make common cause with worldly governments to basically criminalize the people to whom we must show compassion, especially on the matter, and I emphasize, right, because it's not as if I'm not sitting here arguing that matters of morality is no business for legislation. No, but when you see that, when most constitutions make exceptions for when you might restrict a right on grounds of morality, they normally say on grounds of public morals, right? The word public there is significant, right? It carves out an arena, a domain for private morality, and says that, look, people can make their own private self-regarding moral choices, and they will be held accountable in a different domain. Is between themselves and their God, as long as it does not, right, become a public issue. And how does it become a public issue? Of course, certain private sins can become public issues, one, when they affect third parties, when they impose themselves their will. So we, in the law, a number of private sins are criminalized, right? Because they are also public sins. I mean, when you defraud somebody, when you commit murder, when you commit defilement, when you commit rape, when you do any number of those things, it is not just a matter of a private sin. It becomes also a crime, and justifiably so, because you have caused harm to other people by your behavior. Now, it's important, a number of issues have been thrown at us today. Let us look at the issue, for example, and I've seen a number of them. Oh, then are you going to allow, if you allow this, then you are going to allow X, Y, Z, all these parade of horrible things that will happen. So if you just and let's make the point clear, LGBT people in Ghana, as far as I know, are not making any claims on the state for recognition of gay marriage. They are not even going to the state to ask for permission to have a gay pride parade or march or anything. Not in Ghana. Nobody has actually crossed that line. What they are asking for, and this is where an important point, a matter of rights that people don't actually oftentimes get. The kind of rights they are asking for is a very simple one. A right to be. Just let us be.
But
Prof, yes.
Let me ask a question. You are saying the right to be, but
yes.
The pushback on that for some would be every society has to be shaped by something.
Sure.
So Suhini makes the point, for instance, of Western culture that frowns on polygamy because, by and large, for the thousands of years that has existed, it's never been a part of theirs as compared to ours. At the moment, our society, based on our numbers, reflect a significant Christian and Muslim majority who say this is how we want the society that we are dominant in to be shaped. And so it cannot just be that an individual is allowed to just do what he or she wants. What is your take on that?
Well, we do not live in a totalitarian society where the government has all the power and the individual has no rights except at the sufferance of the state. There are a number of different rights. Let me distinguish between, say, what we call positive rights and negative rights. So with positive rights, you tend to make a claim on the state for a certain entitlement. The state must give you something, right? It comes from the state to you. With negative rights, you don't make claims on the state for any largesse or any benefit. You're just telling the state, I'm not asking you for anything. You just this is my sphere of autonomy, where as long as I stay within this lane, this sphere of autonomy, you do not justifiably come into this space. Those are what we call negative rights. So, for example, you may not find a lot of negative rights in a constitution because they are so obvious. Some of them are so natural and inherent in our being as human beings that nobody thinks to even put them in the constitution. If you went into all the constitutions of the world, you're not going to find the right to sleep, are you? You're not going to find it. But is that to say that we don't have the right to sleep as human beings? Of course we do. You're not going to find the right to sex, because sex is not something we get from the state. It is not created by government. It's not created by human beings, right? It is something that inheres in our being as humans. So you're not going to find in any constitution a right to sex. Same way you're not going to find in a constitution a right to eat. These are very, very natural things that are significant to our being and our dignity as human beings. So in areas like that, what I'm arguing is that, let's say sex, let's take sex. It does not mean that anything you do with sex is legitimate and the state cannot interfere. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that in a domain like sex, and I'll distinguish it from marriage. I'll come to marriage, right? Marriage is a public institution. We talked about bigamy and those things. Marriage is a public institution. You have to be licensed. Your marriage must be recognized by the state. It's not like sex. The government, the state creates marriage, right? Initially evolving from the church. And then when we moved from theocracies to secular states, the state took over that public institution. But the church is still involved in it. So it's a public institution. So when I make a claim that I want to be married, I get a license from the state or a blessing from the church. That is a positive right that I get. I have to claim it. So the state, in most cases, has legitimate grounds to put certain restrictions on which marriages it wants to recognize and which ones it doesn't. Sex is a totally different matter because it's not coming from the state. So with sex, the state has an interest. It has an interest to ensure that people are not being forced into sex. There is no rape, or sex is not being imposed against their will. The state has an interest in ensuring that minors, people who are deemed not to have sufficient mental capacity, are not drawn into sex. The state also has an interest in ensuring that sex remains a private affair and not something that you do and display publicly. That's why we have indecency exposure laws and that kind of thing. That's why we have laws against, rape. We have laws against defilement and that kind of stuff. Now, where these three elements are missing, right? So where you can't find, in situations where you can't find consent or capacity or privacy, then the state can say, hey, no, your sex has crossed the bounds. Right? So people give examples. How about animals? Of course, did the animal consent? Right? These are outlandish arguments, right? So you can, of course, have laws that count animals among the victims. So if you have sex with an animal, it's not consensual sex. And sure, the state can outlaw that if you have sex with. And notice something very important here. Sometimes, even when the person says, oh, but I consented, right? So sometimes, let's say with heterosexual sex, you might find a man and a woman, and the woman is a younger woman, right? She appears to be mature. She appears to be above the age of consent, but it turns out she's not. And she may have said, oh, but I consented. This guy didn't rape me. But the law says no. Sometimes we determine objectively that you cannot give consent, right? And we therefore mark the age at 16. this point is important because it also answers the question some people pose about incest. Oh, so what if, within the same nuclear family, a father is having sex with their daughter and she consented? The law can tell you that in the context of a nuclear family relationship, because of the high risk of exploitation of power, the power imbalance in the family, because of the high risk of abuse psychologically and the other things, that sex within that context is presumed not to be consensual, right? So you can have an objective test of consent and decide that, look, certain kinds of consent we disregard, including where the girl appears to be of majority but is not. I think that outside of these contexts, it becomes very, very difficult and very tricky to find a justification for why the state must interfere in what mutually consenting adults do in the privacy of their own spaces. What we are trying to do with this bill, essentially, is to let the state prescribe what form of sex we can have. What form of sex? I mean, is this really seriously the problem that they are saying is a problem? When I listened to the Honorable Member of Parliament to answer your question, what is the mischief he's trying to cure? He kept saying, in order to present this bill in the most benign, charitable form possible, he says, oh, the major problem is that people are attacking and abusing gays, and therefore we are offering a remedy. Wow. If in that case, that is the main problem, why doesn't the bill limit itself to providing protection, to amending the law to provide protection such as an enhanced punishment for those who target LGBT people or persons suspected to be LGBT for abuse, for attack, even for lynching? This is really a very interesting situation of the disease claiming to be the cure. This bill in every way, and I think this might answer the Reverend Minister's question. Why is it that we are not coming out to say, fix A, fix B, fix C? The truth is that it is very, very difficult to find in this law what is there to fix, right? Because the bill is really just essentially mobilizing. It has become a tool for mobilization. I listened to the clip you played of the Muslim clergy and the threats he was issuing. These are actual threats. You haven't seen anything yet. Wait till these are threats of violence. And we must be very careful what we are promoting. And I am shocked to the bone that the clergy, the Christian clergy, will be part and parcel of this agenda. This agenda has been presented. We who wrote the memo have been presented by, as the Westerners. Look, the truth of the matter is this. It is no accident that bills of this kind are moving from country to country to country. Russia, Moldova, Hungary, Uganda, here they are making, and the template is the same. This is part, they are quick to present us as the ones who are under the influence of some Western stuff. This is part of a widespread, long-standing international agenda, right? To take what in the US you would call the culture wars and export them around the world using wedge issues like, LGBT issues. So each country they go, they try to mask the international origins of this agenda and crusade by trying to indigenize it or localize it. Therefore, you see things like, Ghanaian cultural values and those kinds of things. But let us make no mistake about the agenda that is behind it.
All right.
What is the danger that gay LGBT people are posing? And again, I've given you many lines of distinction where we can draw the lines, right? I am not saying that all sex, and they caricature the position of the opponents of the bill by saying, oh, if we allow them to do this, and then you can have children of your sex. No, the current law actually deals with a lot of these issues already. The current law deals with a lot of these issues already.
All right,
What
Prof.
is new?
Just, I'll give you a minute more, and then you can wrap up on this point, and then we can move on to the second phase of this.
Sure. What is interesting and new is where they try to inject what they are calling the science, right? So all of a sudden, and let's not make any mistake. I mean, I know most people who support or even oppose the bill have not read it. It's plenty of text. But this bill is not just limited to LGBT people. And if you want to show compassion, this is a bill that will deny even a show of compassion. Landlords cannot rent to people who are LGBT. Landlords, you cannot give support or aid. It could be a criminal. You could be in violation criminally if you show empathy and help somebody in need. How is this part of Ghanaian cultural values? How is this part? In any case, the argument about culture, and the Honorable Member of Parliament quoted a portion of the Directive Principles of State Policy. We don't have to go even that far to find culture. Culture is mentioned in the Constitution in many other areas, including in the provisions on fundamental human rights. But it's very clear that culture, from whichever community, is subordinated to the Constitution, right? It's subordinated to the Constitution, and the Constitution explicitly says we shall not do things in the name of culture that dehumanize people, that are injurious to people, whether psychologically or physically or whatever. This bill does a lot of things to our LGBT compatriots that is dehumanizing, it's stigmatizing, and it all stems from this pseudoscience that the LGBT thing is a choice. Now, not to say that if something is a choice, I mean, so if somebody chooses not to marry, so what? Assuming that that's a choice, and our culture likes marriage, so we should criminalize those who don't marry. The minister talks about non-procreative, come on, a whole faction of the church has celibacy as a doctrinal thing, right? We should all, so they don't procreate. They've committed to non-procreative life. So they are not part of us. A lot of marriages are non-procreative, either intentionally or accidentally, right? So that is certainly not an argument to say that because a certain portion of the population have made a particular choice. So it doesn't even have to be genetic. Who says that something has to be genetic before the law can affirm it?
Prof, your point is made. Let me just enter the second phase for this. I hope you don't mind. Lawyer Paul, I'll get to you. Don't worry. Calm down for me.
Here for 1 hour.
Lawyer Paul.
We're going to the second phase when I haven't had a say about the first phase.
Lawyer Paul, don't worry. Bear with me. You're my man. Lawyer Paul, bear with me.
I don't feel it is fair, even though I want to have the second.
Okay, fine. So if you don't mind, do it. Lawyer Paul. Lawyer Paul. You have advocates here. Apostle Dr. Alfred Kodia and Honorable Suhini say I should. Otherwise, I was going to do something because I'll come back to you and Franklin.
It's fine.
I'll come back to you and Franklin. But let's deal with this. So you've heard Professor H.K.C. Prempeh, who has dealt with why he's against this, and he has looked at the legal side. And I think he comes back to the point I was making initially to Suhini, that the law, what exactly is the problem with the current law? And what are they looking to cure with this? Because a lot of the things are already dealt with. And he goes into matter of public rights and private rights. When you look at this document legally, is there a problem with it?
Well, first of all, let me say that the debate going on is healthy. Some of us have maintained that if all laws that have a lot to do with national interest were to be given the same publicity and opportunity to those of us who are to obey them, were to have this, perhaps we could have come out with a more enhanced laws. Not that what has been passed having been, but I mean, subsequently you see that if others had been so much involved as this one is, then we would have perhaps come out with a better law. Now, I have here the Constitution Review Committee report that was commissioned by government, and This is what they said at page 654. The Commission received a few submissions from persons wanting the Constitution to recognize the rights of homosexuals in the Constitution. However, the overwhelming majority of the submissions were to the effect that homosexuality should not be recognized by the Commission. So it is not only the CDD's report that appears to emphasize that Ghanaians, the overwhelming majority of Ghanaians, do not just want this to be legalized. They want it to be proscribed.
You see, hold on there. Do not just want what?
Do not want homosexuality.
Hold on. Homosexuality. You see, Suhini.
The
inability.
You
cannot paraphrase
let
the
me put
document.
the rights of homosexuals.
Yes. Let us not paraphrase the
No,
document.
I'm not. Listen, I'm even surprised.
No, I'm just saying.
So what is the difference between homosexuality and homosexuals?
No, because that's a very
right
specific
of homosexuals.
definition. No. I'm just saying the conversation is about
Let me
sexual rights. But we keep always hearing homosexuality, which is a very specific thing.
Okay, you are expert in that area.
No, I'm not.
I'm saying that.
We are dealing with a matter of law here, Lawyer Paul.
Let me quote what is here. It's a legal document.
Okay.
That the overwhelming majority of submissions were to the effect that homosexuality should not be recognized by the Constitution.
Okay.
Homosexuality.
Yes.
Now, then they go on to list reasons why overwhelming majority of Ghanaians submitted to the Commission that homosexuality should not be recognized. One, the Constitution should not recognize gay rights in Ghana. Now they say gay rights.
Yes.
I just want
For the following
They are
reasons.
used interchangeably in
Yes.
our conversation. So if you want to academize and use semantics, you
This
will get it wrong.
That's okay.
No.
So this is the document that is
context.
based on law.
Yeah.
Being, they say AI, being lesbian or gay prevents procreation, without which the society can become extinct. Prof has given an answer, but I'm reading a legal document. Culturally, it is an abomination to be lesbian or gay. The practice of lesbianism or homosexuality is alien to Ghanaian culture. Even animals, so this is not just coming from other people. This is in the Constitution Review Commission report. Even animals other than human beings do not engage in such a practice, so humans should not. 4, Ghana should not copy blindly from foreign countries. I've seen the promoters of the memorandum also responding that it may not have originated or sponsored by foreign countries. We have it, Ghanaians here saying that homosexuality is against the laws of nature. Homosexuality is against the laws of God. God in his own wisdom made us for purposes of procreation. We should therefore resist demands from unscrupulous Ghanaians to accommodate depraved sexual tendencies. The Constitution, and then there are those who are for it. The Constitution should recognize lesbian and gay rights for the following reasons. A man should have the freedom to live with his fellow man if that is what he pleases. Some people are born homosexuals,
Which is not true.
and should be allowed to express their sexual orientation. This is from those who want this not to be prescribed. All right, so we have them. Now, there's a talk about majority view. And what does the Constitution say about matters that are of public interest? Article 295 defines what a public interest is. And 295 says public interest includes any right or advantage which inures or is intended to inure to the benefit generally of the whole of the people of Ghana. The word generally is also important.
Yeah.
So, must it be that a matter cannot be of public interest unless all the people of Ghana say yes? It should be. Definitely not.
Generally.
Now, so we come to this whole issue, and I ask myself, the Prof and his eminent personalities, the friends, don't they see anything, one provision in this act that is worthy of passage by Parliament? I want to know. Because he spoke about marriage. And clause 11,
Section 11.
Honorable, well, now because it has not been passed yet.
It's a clause,
Yeah. A marriage entered into by the following persons is void. Persons of the same sex, or a person who has undergone gender or sex reassignment. Don't they want this to be part of it? Or the argument is that it's already covered by law? And the very important point he made about protection of these people. Should it not also, even if there is a law, as he earlier said, we had laws about assault and all that, but we have even passed the Land Act, and vigilantism or land guardism is in it as a serious offense that you can go to jail for about 10 years or so. But we have separate laws that deal with these matters as well. But as if to enhance the punishment and emphasize the revulsion with which we deem these things now, we have included it in the Land Act and go engage in land guardism or similar offenses, and you see how long you spend when you are convicted in jail. Okay? So it is important that at least. So my question is, do they not want any form of prescription of these acts? And I heard Prof emphasizing, you should forgive me, but that's what I heard, so much about sex. Is this only about sex? These other ones, what are they? The TTKQIAAP plus. What are they also about?
It's not sex.
Self-expression. What is the problem with self-expression?
The T stands for what?
I don't know.
Transgender, trans, whatever.
So I'm saying that,
Transsexual.
you see, we spoke about Kwejo Besia and Kwesi Besia and so on, Supri. Yes, they were mainly the conceptualization of sex and who engages in it. We've lived with that. The queer, and so on. They are the parts that people think that if I want to marry an animal, I should marry or engage in sex with an animal
Or a tree.
or a tree. I should be able to do so.
I mean,
No, but those are the extremes. Let's
But it's
stay
part of
on.
it.
It's yes, the bill itself, and then
And it also has the plus.
you see, human rights are provided under Chapter 5. Article 33 says that you can go to court where you believe that
Your rights
your rights are about to, are being, or have been violated in relation to you. This LGBTQRA++, where are they? For all you know, this bill, they don't think that it will even affect them in any way. I want to hear them and explain to us, right to Parliament, either as individuals or as a group. I don't believe that they have sponsored this memorandum. Why don't they? So at the end of the day, we want Parliament to prescribe,
good point.
and that is what laws are about. Prescription. So that you know, because under the Constitution, Article 19, 5 and 11 says nothing is a crime unless it is expressly provided by law, and in most cases, the punishment provided for it. If these LGBTQ people think that this act is going to violate any of the specific constitutional human rights, we want to hear from them.
They can take us to court.
Of course, that is what the Constitution Review Commission recommendation said. That even though overwhelming majority of Ghanaians say we don't like it, they will leave it as it is. And rather, will wish that it may go before the Supreme Court for interpretation. Is that okay? In that sense, you may even go under Article 2 to say that an act of Parliament or conduct of any other person violates a provision of the Constitution, and let the Supreme Court also interpret that way. They also spent a lot of time, and I like the academic, not that I even expected anything less. These are Ekukudam professionals, professors, and so on, and legal experts. I can't know where near most of them, but they spent a lot of time, good time, on the preliminary about the fact that the act itself is unconstitutional because it is coming under an article that's about private members' bill. Mm-hmm. But I say that argument is being diminished by day. Now we have a minister for parliamentary affairs who happens to be majority leader, a liaison between government and parliament. You think that if the government is against it, because it will have some serious adverse effect on our consolidated fund, the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, who recently was appointed to read the government's budget, wouldn't have raised an issue, or has he, and I haven't heard. So it is a tacit acceptance that it is reasonable to admit this bill as a private member's bill. But I'm saying that it is good that they have also raised these matters. Let us dispassionately look at them. Sometimes I find it quite disheartening, especially when you listen to some of the radio stations in the locals, and I go there quite a lot. I mean, people find it so unthinkable that honorable professors should be coming out with it. It is healthy. Let us also encourage our people to accommodate dissenting views and opinions. But that said, there are some language used by our honorable personalities that sometimes I feel that then you are also giving in to others to use similar language.
So vulnerable people
Yes.
who are full of hate in their communication.
Yes, you see.
No, but it's not just that.
So we should. I think
sad
that they may also in future. I'm not the one to prescribe how they should express themselves, but I'm saying that when I also listen to, especially the local, where the majority of the people are, and they view this thing as an abomination. If you want to convince them, then let your language come down to the level where it may even then, oh, look at them, they're even using quite mild language, and so let us also learn from that. So I think that Parliament should look at this memorandum. Obviously, there are parts in the bill that needs fine-tuning. That is why the Constitution provides for a bill like this to go through at least 3 stages and accept memoranda and so on. I'll also urge our friends to dispassionately look at it. There are aspects that they may have expressed that if they incorporate it in the form of amendment, it will end up bringing this bill out as one of the best laws that we ever passed. But not to pass the act at all, Alabraka, I do not also support that. There are aspects in them, those that protect the so-called gay and lesbian and QQTTA people, that should remain. There are, as like the 11 that deal with marriage, we can fine-tune it. Article 17 that people always refer to as the trump card against discrimination. Clause 4 says Parliament has the power to pass a law in relation to marriage. All right? In relation to marriage. So this is exactly what Parliament is seeking to do. And
Okay.
in my view, just to conclude, I'm very grateful and I commend them. I'm sure they knew what they were really going to get themselves into, but it is for us Ghanaians also to be tolerant of views like these are what are going to shape the bill to make it what it is. And I think they should not also relent, but listening to others as well, perhaps in their next memorandum, they may also want to balance, because it looks like in this case, the fantastic presentation they made is one-sided.
Really?
In my view.
Okay.
No aspect even remotely supported the bill or an aspect of the bill. Reading from this alone.
Well, the points are well spelled out, but I'll take a break. When I come back, Suhini, I want us to talk about your clause 12 and your clause 13. For a journalist, I will normally do not express public opinions, but I think your clause 12 and your clause 13 are some of the most retrogressive things I have ever read with regards to media freedom anywhere on planet Earth. The big issue will be right back. Welcome back to the big issue. I have a lot of messages I will go through. You can send yours 0549986996, 0550585832, 0549986996, 0550585832. I would do a final round from Honorable Suheni, Apostle Dr. Alfred Kodia, and Professor H.K.C. Prempe, and then we will wrap up the conversation on this matter and then move on to my second conversation. So let us all try and stay within the allocated time, although I reserve the right to interject as and when. Yes.
You should treat me like you treated
as is my right.
Treat me like you treated Prof.
As is my right as the venerable host of this program.
I just want to be treated like Prof.
But let us look at Suhini, I'm looking at your clauses,
Right.
12 and 13, which looks at media promotion
Right.
and advocacy activities. Clause 13 is a bit more direct, which talks about propaganda, promotion, advocacy activities directed at children.
Yeah.
So I can leave that at a point. But
Okay. You are right.
clause 12 to 16, well, yeah, so let's deal with clause 12 to 16, basically. Why are you, as a journalist, looking to clamp down on not just press freedom, and that is my reading of what I am looking at right now, because if you read clause 12 to 13, it deals with the propaganda, advocacy support, and other promotional activities. A person who, by use of media, technological platform, technological support, or any other means produces, procures, markets, broadcasts, disseminates, publishes, or distributes a material for purposes of promoting an activity prohibited under the bill, or a person uses an electronic device, the internet service, a film, or any other device capable of electronic storage or transmission to produce, procure, market, broadcast, disseminate, publish, or distribute a material for purposes of promoting an activity prohibited under the bill, commits an offense and is liable to summary conviction by a term of imprisonment of not less than 5 years and not more than 10 years. The person who is slapping somebody is getting 6 months. Okay. Clause 12. Clause 12 also prohibits a person from engaging or participating in an activity that promotes, supports, sympathy for a change of public opinion towards an act prohibited under the bill, commits an offense and is liable on a summary conviction. Then you move on to one that says, furthermore, a person who offers premises, okay, that's the one HKC Prempe dealt with. 13 prohibits propaganda, promotion, advocacy directed at children. That's a person who, by use of media, tech platform, tech account, or any other means produces, procures, markets, broadcasts, disseminates, publishes, or distributes a material or information directly or indirectly directed at a child with intent to evoke the interest of the interest in an activity prohibited under the bill, or teach a child to explore any gender or sex other than the binary category of male or female assigned at birth, commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment of not less than 6 years and not more than 10 years. Similarly, where a person uses an electronic device, the internet service, a film, or any other device capable of electronic storage or transmission to produce, procure, market, broadcast, disseminate, publish, or distribute a material information directly or indirectly directed at a child with intent to evoke the interest of in an activity prohibited under the bill, or teach a child to explore any gender or sex other than the binary category of male or female assigned at birth, the person commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment of not less than 6 years and not more than 10 years. I'm looking at the advocacy or lobby parts of this with regards to the media. You are basically opening a Pandora's box, in my estimation. So, are you not?
No, we are not. And maybe we have to constantly remind people that this is a bill. The memorandum that people are sending is useful. I hope that they will be aimed at improving the bill, making it better. So whatever language, whatever provision that you find problematic, the attitude should not be dismissive. The attitude should be a contribution to resolving a problem we all know we have. And the problem we have is how our society wants to deal with this category of people. That problem we can't run away from. It is a problem that we have to confront. So whatever contribution to the bill should be aimed at addressing that problem of how our society wants to deal with this activity. So if you find anything wrong with the bill, be it the wording or the sentences or the prescriptions, please feel free to submit a contrary view. That will be aimed at cleaning this. But you see, I started by talking about the frames that I see promoters of this conduct use. So they have the anti-colonial frame, where they say Section 104 is this colonial legacy, we must do away with the colonial mentality. They use the human rights angle, where they tell you that it's the rights of the people, we must tolerate them. And clearly, legal experts have demonstrated that this is a matter of choice. And if we target as a human rights issue, the prostitutes will also demand their rights to be respected. So it is not...
Even armed robbers.
They will demand their rights to be respected. Again...
So let's not be flippant. It cannot happen like that.
Please, it's not being flippant. You see, let us be serious about this. I'm saying that they have used the human rights angle. And I'm saying that the human rights angle does not stand the test of time because, look, if you describe that choice as a human rights issue, there are other choices that people will come up with, such as prostitution, and tell you that why is that not considered a human rights issue? Then they have the hate tagging, where they go about, suggesting that anybody against this conduct is preaching hate. Now I see a new trend, and it is also reflected in research, the CDD research, where they will tell you that majority of Ghanaians in rural setup tend to be more intolerant compared to people in suburban Ghana. Why? Because there's a trend to be cool and sound intelligent to be for it. So you find suburban middle class getting, enticed to sound cool and intelligent in support of this practice. And I'm saying we must watch it. Because clearly, look, if you look at the provisions you have highlighted, the watch phrase for me there, or phrases, are a material for purposes of promoting an activity prohibited under this act. Why will you have a problem when we say that a media house should not promote something that is prohibited?
That's a crime.
That's already a crime to begin with. So FDA cannot prohibit a product and he will advertise it and want to go scot-free. So the phrase there that you must look out for is a material for purposes of promoting an activity prohibited under this act. Okay. So when this act is passed, and then after
list the activities for me.
No, after we all contribute, to cleaning it up and making sure that it reflects our cultural values and our aspirations of our society, any of the conduct that we have proposed here, when it becomes law and it is prohibited and you promote it, you should suffer some penalty. Again, you have revised your position on 13, because 13 also says a material or information directed at a child, whether directly or indirectly, with intent to evoke the interest of the child in an activity prohibited under this act.
So we need to look at what the activities are.
Yeah, so we have listed the activities. We have listed the activities being that our society is against this same-sex, marriage, same-sex, whatever, transgender, and the CQ+. We are against it, and we are prohibiting those acts. So we are saying when it is prohibited, and you go and you use your media platform to promote it, just like FDA will come after you when they prohibit, a product, and you promote it, you will suffer consequences. It has nothing to do with media freedoms. But I'm saying that even given what I have said, if you still have problems with even the wording or the way the sentences are proposed, please feel free to contribute to making it better. Because why? We all in this country, just recently, a television network was even promoting heterosexual, conduct by showing X-rated movies. Heterosexual. What did we do in this country? Did we tolerate it? Was that against their media freedoms? It's not. X-rated, heterosexual, because they were not even showing gayism, homosexuality, and other things. They were showing heterosexual X-rated movies. The society rose up. The National Media Commission took action. That is what we are saying. That look, if it is prohibited, it is prohibited. And by all indications, supported by research, our society is against this thing. And that's why I need to perhaps send an advice to those who are, LGBTQ people. I don't think their promoters are helping them.
How so?
I have said it, and I think Lawyer Pong also made a similar suggestion. That look, for people who are considered or supposed to be a vulnerable group, the language of blackmail, of disdain, of, that is so dismissive of any other view except theirs, does not even encourage, the kind of tolerance that they seek. But on the contrary, those of us who are tagged as hateful are those rather seeking to address the common problem that literature has produced. The common problem in Ghana now being that they are attacked and abused. Now, Professor Prempeh talks about our culture of tolerance. Our culture of tolerance.
Yes.
Which I agree with. We are generally a tolerant people. And that is why even in the past, when we had this deviant behavior in our society, we tolerated it and we lived with it and make jokes with it. Because we are generally tolerant. But we have come to a point where it seems our tolerance is being taken for granted. And so people are getting emboldened by our tolerance to a point that they now want to put it in our faces and suggest to us that it is a way of life we must accept and promote. Because we have tolerated it in the past, and it is the reason, because they are putting it in the faces of the people and saying that you have tolerated in the past, so it is now in your face, accept it and promote it. Our people are becoming apprehensive, and they are beginning to attack them.
When you say promotion, what exactly do you mean?
Oh, the promotion is exactly what is being done in the case of this memo that is saying we should dismiss this. The promotion is in the light of the Australian ambassador. The Australian ambassador hoisting a flag in this country, and I mean, Prof was saying that it is a call to just be. It is not just a call to just be. In fact, it's a call to even incorporate it in our curricula. Remember, we've had that discussion also before, to introduce it in our curricula, to get children to learn about it. So it's not just let be. That is not it. Again, when the Australian ambassador hoists a flag and invites people to be allowed to get married and all of that, which this law prescribes, it is not just let be. It is going beyond. That's what I'm saying. It is moving beyond what we used to know of it, which we tolerated, to a point where we are now being told that we must accept it as a way of life and promote it in our society. So and clearly, our position is that it must not be tolerated and promoted in our society. All right. But you see, your time is up. Just to wrap up on the Jesus theology that Prof quoted, Professor Prempeh, you see, he should look at clause 29 of our bill. I mean 21. Sorry.
What does it say?
Flexible sentencing. It says the court, in addition to imposing a sentence under this act, may make such orders as appropriate to serve the interest of justice or secure the welfare or well-being of the convicted person. The person convicted openly, if the person convicted openly recants and requests access to an approved medical help,
The
or
person
approved
openly
medical
what?
treatment, recants.
Recants what?
Once you need help.
But you see, that is the problem with those who say they have the language. This is almost Spanish Inquisition style language of 300 years ago. Recant, seek medical treatment.
So change it. Change the language.
Which hospital in Ghana are they going to? Kolebu.
Oh, the bill also provides for the kind of medical services that will be provided and how
Which
how
doctor
the state will
certified
help.
that? Which doctor certified that?
Which doctor certified what?
That you can go to which hospital?
We
So?
didn't prepare
We
for
didn't-
COVID-19.
Just listen.
No, but you see, this is no, but you see, the reason
You are
let us
distorting the point I was about to make
No,
with this.
I am not
But you
distorting
see,
the point
You are
because
distorting the point I was about to make with this.
I am not. This,
I'm
because
saying that.
you met chiefs.
Yes.
Did you meet doctors?
Yes, we did.
What did they say?
That there is conversion therapy
Where?
in the world.
In Ghana,
it is
where?
available.
In Ghana, where?
It can be provided for in Ghana. It is-
Where?
look,
Now?
Look, today in Ghana.
We have
people-
rehab centers.
Yes, we even have centers. But
Where?
Please,
Rehab
please,
centers in
Godfred.
Accra.
You see,
Kumasi.
listen to me.
Yeah, so-
Transgender people who want to change their sex, they undergo conversion therapy, don't they?
In Ghana.
I'm saying you are saying that it is so absurd to
No,
suggest conversion therapy as a cure.
Yes.
But I'm saying that people who want to change their sex, they undergo conversion therapy. Why is it not absurd? Why do I want, if I want to become a woman, I go for estrogen, whatever, and change my hormones, I'm converted into a woman. It is not abominable. It's not considered outrageous. But if I want to reverse, if I feel like being a woman, but I want to reverse to feel like
Back
the
to
man
a
I
man.
am, it is abominable. Why?
Who said so?
That is what you are suggesting.
No, that is
what
what
I
I'm
say.
suggesting.
Listen,
The point- your language says-
the language says the language says that after your conviction, if you want help, and the judge can provide.
Suhini, I'm sorry, but the language, frankly, sounds like something from the 1700s. Let's be honest about this.
Again, that's
To
what I'm saying.
recant conversion, what are you going to do exactly? That's what I'm asking. What specific medical practice?
I'm
Because
saying that-
this is a bill before Parliament. This is not a random document.
Yes, Godfred.
What
if
is the level of expertise
Godfred, if you
that this
go,
went through?
If you go to change your sex now, which language will you use?
No,
Wouldn't you say you want to be converted?
I don't know.
No, that's what they use. They convert their sexes.
So I'm asking, is that
So
what your
is that
panel?
1900s
So you had
thinking?
you had a panel of medical experts in Ghana tell you this?
We spoke to medical experts who told us that there's conversion therapy.
Okay.
And in fact, we don't even need that because we know there's conversion therapy to move from a man to a woman. Yeah.
Okay. No
That's
problem.
conversion therapy, and it is tolerated.
Let me go.
But the point I was going to make when I
I'll
cited
give you
this,
1 more minute more
the
than
point I was
this.
going to make when I cited this was that you see, the church and faith generally preaches the love for sinners, but not the love for sin. The love for sinners, but not the love for sin.
What is sin?
So in this case, when the church says that sodomy is sinful, it does not say that the one who engages in it must be hated and despised. He must be helped through prayers, through medical support if it is available. And that is exactly what this bill is seeking to do, to provide for. That look, we know that some people may deviate from our society and engage in this, but they are not entitled to our hate. They are entitled to our sympathy, our support. But that support and sympathy and tolerance should not be converted to accepting the sinful behavior. We can love the sinner, but not the sin.
Okay, I need Apostle Dr. Fred Kodia. I will get you. Just give me 1 minute. Let me talk to Franklin Kujo, President of Human Africa. Because since he's entered the realms of Christianity,
Faith in general.
I was going to counter quote 1 Corinthians 6, 9, and 10 for Suhini, because he seems to have elevated some sins above others. But let me
Sin
talk to
against the Holy Spirit is the
Hold on,
worst
but
moves.
first go back. Then let me read my verse. Let me read.
I don't even want the mistaken belief that this bill is based on religion. This bill is based on our culture. That our constitution supports. It's based on our culture.
Let me read this for you. 1 Corinthians 6:9-10 says, "Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, as you are saying, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who practice homosexuality, as you said, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor revilers." It's a long list. Nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. Are they part of your bill?
Why don't you promote whichever that you also find?
That is excluded.
Okay.
Yes, that is excluded. This is what we have chosen for now.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can also choose any other.
Franklin Kujo.
It's a free world.
Franklin Kujo.
The conversation has moved from the elevation of sin to what I call quite absurd levels. Initially I did not want to make any comment, but I think I've heard so much, and it looks to me that the promoters of the law or the bill are just simply not interested in an intellectual and an honest debate. I come from a position that, Sini, seriously, that's my reading of everything that is happening right now. I mean, the references to the memo as being as if it's being shoved down our throats and it's being too intolerant. Quite frankly, I don't see anything in that memo that sort of disrespects anybody. I think it attacks every issue that has been raised, and then tries to provide justification as to why it is in an affront to the rule of law, as it is, and then against public policy, and actually against international order as well. So for me, I think that the supporters of the law, or the bill rather, are not helping the cause at all. I think you don't want us to confront the issues about, and in an honest way, the practical issues that are on the table. And that's my disappointment. In one vein, you seem to be suggesting that you are welcoming of any alternate views. But when I hear people who support the bill speak, and indeed, I've heard quite a number of them also on the traditional, the local language media. It's as if these persons do not have any sense at all, and that they do not necessarily have to share a view or two about the issues that are being discussed. What can be difficult to understand that some people have rights that ought to be at least respected. When you put a bill in the way, in the format or in the language in which the bill has been drafted, it is as if these persons they're not even second-class citizens. They are just totally to be wiped off of the surface of the earth. But then when you have other alternatives, when you have alternative views coming to say that, look, the way the bill has been put clearly defies some semblance of at least common civility, and then makes it look as if other persons are uncivilized and must be punished, then there's a problem. I think at the very least, you should encourage this type of conversation and the debate. That's where I think I want to come in at this stage. Otherwise, I've set stand with that number that I'm a libertarian, and even though I'm Catholic, and it's also the case that I like to have people have expressed their views in whatever form that they want. I can also attest that even within the Catholic Church, as we've now heard the Pope say, that sometimes we should be welcoming of sinners as well. And Sini, I like your analysis of a sin versus a sinner and all of that stuff. But Jesus also said, whatever you do to the least of my brothers, you do unto me. I think you find similar conversations, text in the Quran as well. So I'll call on especially the proponents of the bill, to be a bit laid back, to accept some level of debate, and they should come to the table with a bit of civility. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Apostle Dr. Frekodia, you have 5 minutes, your final words.
Okay,
please.
thank you. I think what Franklin has said is exactly what I've been saying here. From the beginning, that, in fact, the bill as proposed is good. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the promoters are concerned. But it's going to serve all of us. And therefore, anybody who has anything to add or subtract may do so. My disagreement with the
Professor Prempeh
academicians is the fact that they said the whole thing should be thrown away. That one, I think, has to be relooked at. Professor Prempeh talked about the theology of compassion. I can assure him that the churches are already in the business of compassion. The ministry of compassion has been, we've demonstrated it for all to see. The Catholic Church is doing it, the Church of Pentecost, Methodist Church, everybody is on board. So we are already doing it. Churches have got counseling units where people like people who are involved in homosexual activities can even come for counseling and prayer support. You're already doing it. So he should know. But you know, Jesus gave what we call the Great Commission, saying that we should go into the whole world and preach the gospel. Whoever accepts should be baptized and taught to obey all that he has taught us. So we accept everybody. Even if you are a gay person and you want to come to church, we will accept you and teach you. So to emphasize what my honorable brother was saying, the church accepts sinners, but we don't condone their sins. The fact is that in our demonstration of compassion, we cannot be kinder than God. We should not be seen to be kinder than God. Let us punish where God will punish. God is more loving than all of us, and God is more compassionate than all of us. But in the Bible and in the Quran and other holy books, God has directed that people who do certain things must be punished. So we are not saying anybody should be killed, as we see in the Old Testament time where homosexuals and people like that will be stoned to death. That is not what we are saying. Within this context, that is not what we are saying. But at least, if this bill is passed, offenders must be dealt with because their activities have got the potential of destroying the very society that we all want to live in. Professor Prempeh also made a statement about consenting adults. Let me say that that is the language being used by secular humanists. And secular humanism has been promoting the agenda of being good without God globally. And somehow it is a very subtle agenda. And it seems to be ruling the world now. It's one of the major philosophies ruling the world now. How can human beings be good without God when we have been born inherently evil? Leave the human being without laws, and you see what will happen in this country. You meet somebody and you just kill him. You meet somebody and you just do whatever you like with. So human beings cannot be good without God, as is being propagated by secular humanists. Secular humanism will tell you that any sexual activity can go on or must be accepted as long as it is being practiced by consenting adults. And once you open that door, you are allowing people to do whatever they like, sexually speaking. But there must be barriers. You think somebody is hiding in his room, maybe consenting adults are hiding in their room and engaging in homosexual activities, and therefore it does not affect all of us. It does.
How?
You know, don't ask me.
I don't.
You know.
I don't.
You
Dr.
know.
Akoto, I don't.
Because
How?
if everybody is to engage in homosexual activities, this world will die. Who will populate this world? So it affects everybody. So
the current HIV rate, the current HIV, yes, the AIDS Commission has told us that those leading the surge in HIV today
are the gays and lesbians.
Yes, and Ghana is spending $200 million a year on ARV on them.
So
that affects me.
Don't let us
and my
pretend as
community
if we don't have a problem. So this secular humanistic agenda has to be looked at. We cannot sit down and say that, oh, we can be good without God. It does not work.
All right.
Then
Final point.
my final point, my dear professor was saying that there's nothing to be fixed in this proposed bill. Mm-hmm. There's nothing to be, and I think maybe he has to read it, because there are so many things to be fixed. You were just talking about the word recant. You think that it is a borrowed word from the Spanish Inquisition 300 years ago. Fine. Provide a softer word. That is all that we are doing. I mean, this whole discussion is saying that there's a proposed bill. It is going to serve all of us. So if other people think that it needs fine-tuning, just supply the necessary shortcomings, and then we move on. But for somebody to say there's nothing to be fixed, I beg to disagree. Then we have a problem, and Ghanaians should not play the ostrich. We need to accept that there's a problem as far as this homosexual thing is concerned. Let's deal with it and deal with it once and for all. Don't let us dwell on words, semantics, and try to throw these things away. We have a serious problem. LGBTQI, YYYZZ. Let's be very careful.
Professor Kwesi Prempeh, your final words?
Well, I'm happy that my good friend Franklin Kujo got an opportunity, however brief, to make his point, and I agree completely with everything he says. It's a bit surprising that especially listening to the Honorable Member of Parliament, who professes open-mindedness on this issue, and yet every step of the way really comes off essentially trying to flex majoritarian muscle, unfortunately, that, we have it. And you see those voices echoed, unfortunately, also by the church. I mean, when you see the church standing on majoritarianism and marching to the parliament, issuing threats to members of parliament, issuing threats of regime change to government if they don't have their way. And then to hear the Honorable Member of Parliament saying, oh, it is the opponents of the bill who are saying my way or the highway. Really? I mean, seriously speaking, we have to come to this issue. It's always difficult. My good friend Kofi Bento put something on his Facebook wall which made sense to me. Part of the difficulty in this debate is that it's a non-debate, actually, because in a secular, and this is a secular republic, no matter what our own faith preferences are, this is not a theocracy and it's not about to become one. This is a secular republic, right? This is how we have fashioned this republic. It admits of religion, it admits of faith, but it does not erect faith as the supreme law of the land. This is a secular republic. The difficulty with having democratic dialogue in the secular republic, when one of the parties to the debate stands purely on their understanding of their faith and the dogma, is that the prospect that through debate we might reach some consensus, or we might persuade one side or the other, becomes very difficult to reach, because you are using. Well, let me make my point.
So, please let
me make my point. When you come to the democratic square, in a debate where one side of a debate essentially is locked in because faith leaves you no room to compromise, then it is very difficult for me to see how you then argue that the other side is not open-minded about this, right? But let me address the three concerns. So Lawyer Pong says, well, there must be something that you can salvage about the bill. Clearly, I mean, neither the proponents, neither the objectors to this bill, nor the LGBT community in Ghana that I know, have made any demand, any crusade, any campaign for the recognition of same-sex marriage. Nobody has said that. Nobody has asked for anything of the sort, right? If you want to put it in the law for the avoidance of doubt, the current law, it's not in doubt, but if you want to do for the avoidance of doubt, fine. The problem becomes when you borrow this whole new pseudoscience of sex is only binary. And this is where I think that the church must come to these questions with a lot more humility and modesty based on their history of getting a lot of things wrong at the time. The church got slavery wrong, has gotten racism wrong, got Galileo wrong, got a number of things wrong. And the church needs to come to these questions where knowledge is incomplete, human knowledge is incomplete, and it's evolving. Science has not settled the matters about the provenance of the gay identity conclusively one way or the other, right? So these are matters about which knowledge is necessarily incomplete and evolving. To think that we know all the answers, we know what the gay identity is about. Oh, it's a choice. Completely trivializing the experiences and the witnessing of many gay people. It may be a choice for some people. It doesn't make it universally a choice for everybody. So the fact that, the church comes strongly, like they did in Galileo's days, oh, the earth is flat, come on, I mean, recant or go to jail. That's what they did to Galileo. He spent the rest of his life in house arrest. 350 years later, they apologized. We are fallible human beings. We are not omniscient, only God is. We shouldn't play God and presume to have answers, settled answers to questions that are very difficult in this debate. So this idea that, oh, there's only this binary stuff, you're a man or woman at birth, and that if you try to do anything, leave it to people, leave it to families to make those decisions. Certain things are not necessarily the state's business at this point in our knowledge, right, to come in and weigh. The church can do its business as a church, as part of society, not the state, and still counsel and do these things. The difficulty I have is the church trying to convert theological sin into crimes, all theological sins into crimes. But and then my dear Reverend says, oh, we cannot be kinder than God. But we are kinder than God, right? We are playing kinder than God on adultery, on fornication, any number of sins that are not criminalized, right? So we are playing kinder than God. We're being very selective here and playing kinder than God in a number of cases, right? And have allowed certain things that in the Bible were attracted the death penalty to not even be criminalized. And yet we are saying, oh, we can't be kinder than God when it comes to LGBT people who, I'm saying again, are asking not for gay marriage. They are not asking for a right to marry each other. The idea that they are putting something down our throat is really strange to admit, right? I live in this country too, and I do not know where our honorable member of parliament is getting this idea that gay people are foisting this on us. This bill, until this bill started rallying the stuff, or until the World Congress of Families started coming to town and doing these conferences about all these things, right? Until this bill, it's a live and let live. That's the culture of tolerance. As long as they did not victimize anybody. And also, in terms of sex crimes, pedophilia, defilement, rape, the overwhelming majority of cases, whether reported in the media or handled by the courts, are by heterosexual men. That's why teenage pregnancy is high among schoolgoers. Who do you think are the people doing it? LGBT people? So we have to come to a certain honesty about this matter.
Okay, Prof.
That we are unduly and unfairly targeting a vulnerable minority in the country. And this doomsday scenario that we're painting, that somehow if we don't do that, all hell will break loose. Well, maybe for good theological reasons, maybe let's have the end of the world come, if that is what we are inviting. But I think we should really be fair to ourselves. This debate is not an equal debate. It's one group thinking we now have the political muscle. We can force politicians to do whatever we want. And like the Honorable Minister just said, the other ones, we will take it one at a time. This is an agenda that is not going to end with this. You pass this bill, then the next comes. Okay, what other sin do we go after? Who? The academicians, what are their favorite sin? You go after them. They despise academicians. We now become the new vulnerable group. The hate speech this thing is fueling is dangerous. And for me in particular, I don't mind politicians doing that. That tends to be their stock in trade sometimes. But the church, I think, should show a lot more humility and a lot more modesty. Its history is tainted with a lot of error and bloodshed. And it doesn't need to do this or pretend to be playing God in this matter. It's unfortunate that the church is in alliance with worldly forces that would seem to cast out a very vulnerable group who need our compassion, our love. And that's it. That's what they're asking for.
Thank you very much, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. I've run out of time on this particular matter, but thank you so much for your time this morning. He's the Executive Director of the CDD Ghana. I'll wrap up the conversation on this. Thank you very much as well, Apostle Dr. Alfred Kodia, and then Honorable Alasan Suhini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North. We'll discuss the urban floods we experienced on Wednesday. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
2018, which
Welcome back. We will talk about the urban floods that we have been suffering on the final leg of the show. But let me just take a couple of messages that have come through on this. It is very true that not everything that glitters is gold. Will those advocating for LGBTQ and others be born if their parents had practiced this activity? In fact, they need deliverance. This is coming from Asanko in Santa Maria. Musa Abata, I agree entirely with Honorable Suhini. He says, okay. And then Amos from Pando says, it seems the Liberal Democrats have impacted the world with their trans agenda. Men or women who feel that they are trapped in an opposite gender's body and want laws to protect their choice. We also have transracial, which means one has to believe that his body is caught up in a different race complexion. What world is this? And then in Europe, if a landlord rejects a queer tenant, he or she can be prosecuted, is what Kweku from La Paz is saying. Okay. Quite a few messages have come in. Like I said, let's always keep let's be mindful of our language. That's why I'm just going through a few of the messages. The language is quite important. But this week we experienced urban floods, not just in Accra, we had it in Techima, and we had it in quite a few parts of the country. And again, the question arises, why are we planning wrongly? What is it that the MMDAs can do right to correct this situation? Because there has to be a solution to this point. There are those who say, okay, let's even just go and build a new city. But how many new cities can you build? Populations are growing across the country. So how do we solve a problem with the plan? And I've brought in a good friend of mine who deals with these issues. He's a planner. I also bring in engineer Maham Abdullahi, who's a road and building engineer. I'll split the conversation between the two of them. Franklin Kujo is also still with us. But Kekeli Amedro has joined me in studio. Kekeli, good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure, Kekeli, to glean from your vast knowledge on this matter. So I'm looking at Accra. I live in Accra, okay? And I look at what happened on Wednesday, and I ask myself, every time it rains, we are told Accra is resilient, Accra is this. The resilience numbers are dropping, we do know that. We are looking, it rains for 2 hours at a certain volume, 200 mm. Accra gets flooded, cars can't move, nothing is happening. How do we fix this problem from a planning perspective? Can we salvage the situation? First of all, I guess that should be my first question. Can we salvage Accra the way it is?
Yes, I personally do believe from a professional planning perspective that it can't be salvaged. I think the issue of urban flooding has become much of a muchness. Every now and then that becomes a topical issue when it rains. But the main challenge is that I was here, I think 2 years ago with the Accra mayor, and we're discussing some of the solutions to this problem. But when you look at the activities that are ongoing in the city currently, I'm not a prophet, but I can perfectly predict that if it rains, it's going to flood. Because when you look at the type of designs we are putting up in our city, the type of pavements we are putting up in almost every part of the city, then obviously, no, you don't have to even do planning for someone to tell you that. You are covering all the green spaces, all the places where water can naturally percolate through the soil are being blocked. If you go to the ministries, for example, there were lots of green areas with trees and all that. When you go currently, you see that almost all the trees were cut down and they were covered with, pavement blocks. And now it rains where formerly it wasn't flooding, now it's flooding in the ministries. So the whole problem is I don't know, it's just basic.
But they have planners, there are people like you.
But
so
the challenge is if
it
comes to implementation, that is where the problem is. If you look at one of the major causes of flooding in Accra is because all those water retention ponds that were planned as far back as 1991, 1970 are being covered with residential buildings. When you look at I sent you the Odo area, there was a fantastic plan, a green plan, which was supposed to allow natural vegetation, have Olympic sports activities all around Kole. We could have boating experience, very fantastic. But the thing is, if it comes to implementation, after the plan is prepared, what happens? The plan is supposed to be the single document that the assembly is supposed to use in developing their territorial jurisdiction. But if it comes to the actual implementation, most of the departments in the MMDAs do feel that, no, the plan belongs to the fiscal planning department or town and county planning department in the past. So that is a key challenge. So even when they are doing the budgeting, is the budgeting related to a spatial plan? Most of the time it's not. So in actual practice, what plans are supposed to do, they don't do. If you go to, East Legon, I think you mentioned it within the past week. Places that are supposed to be green, buffer zones to the Tema motorway and all that. It started with some construction of police stations, and you can tell all those green areas are now gone. So the natural ability of the ecology to help absorb some of these water are extremely being destroyed. So if you move to Kumasi, the same situation is happening.
The Garden City is no longer the Garden City.
It's no longer, and the Garden City concept, as you know, came from the UK, and then they transplanted it here. It was working perfectly well. Now you go to Ahonjo, all those places where you have wetlands, people are filling it and building filling stations, churches, and what have you. So the challenge is we are continuously doing the wrong thing, and we want solutions. So unless we stop putting up these concrete jungles and everything, every development has to be interpreted in concrete, it's going to flood.
Interesting opening thoughts from Kekeli Amedro on this matter. It doesn't look like his prediction, expect more floods until we decide to change how we build. But somebody who builds is engineer Mahama Abdullahi, a regular on most of our programs when it comes to these matters. Engineer Mahama, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining. I see your Ghana flag as always is at play.
For God and country.
another week, another discussion on urban flooding. We don't want to have this conversation anymore. You have spoken about, you basically make daily predictions on where it's going to flood. Why is nobody listening?
Well, good morning to your viewers. That question is to all of us as to whether people are put in office to work for themselves or they are supposed to work for the common goal of the community or the district or the region in which they are supposed to be manning their positions. Like my colleague Kekali just said. Remember about 2 years ago, I was in your studio, and then I told you that no matter what happens at the Odo, even if the Odo is 90% desilted, the floods that will be coming in the years ahead, we cannot contain the floods. Let's go up here. Accra is virtually a flat terrain. You have been watching me. You have been tweeting most of my tweets when I rant every day, and I know you follow all those things. When you drive to Ayimensa right now, look on the left-hand side of Ayimensa. Whereas the Europeans are trying to protect their mountainous areas, we have encroached all the mountain with impunity and selling the lands there in the region of about 200, 500, 600,000 Ghana cedis, and sometimes $1 million for a plot of land for the elites. And once see, we have at this stage, those who are down here are suffering, and we are actually displaying sheer disregard to those who are in the slums or those who are in the flat terrain area. Now, if about 60% now of the Peduasi Lodge area, what do you call it, Abokubi?
Yeah, Abokubi Terman area.
Terman, Ayimensa, Peduasi Lodge. You come towards Brekuso, you come towards Amasaman, is scary. And this water find themselves to Domipula 2, they connect to Pukwasi area. No wonder the floods have just increased again around Ofankor to Achimota. You know, now on Wednesday.
Yes.
So the retention, the buffer areas, like Kekeli said, have been taken over by filling stations. And I always emphasize that before you can own a filling station, you are into $1 million Ghana cedi plus from the scratch. You should know those who can just actually get the money to overlook the buffer areas. Let me just quote one. You know me, I like to just reference you to what is the assembly can do.
Yeah.
The assembly, the engineers, frankly, others who know that some of us are very vocal, they call us because they are working for the public. They are working as public servants, so they have the risk of being transferred. So they call and run to us that sometimes they want to prevent a construction of a facility in a flood-prone area, but the orders will come from above, and to get to the MMDCs, who will transfer the order to the engineer that do as been instructed. Now, if you look at the National Building Regulation 1996 LI 1630, Regulation 13 says site requirement, and the 13B is so explicit. It says no site, a land liable to flooding shall be built upon without adequate provision for flood control. So I gave you an example of Angkor to Achimota flooding. And for the first time, Kwabenya Police Station towards Hacho, the Atomic Commission area.
Yeah.
The energy, is it Atomic School? There's a school.
Yes,
on the right, just after
that's the Atomic School, yes.
For the first time, the flood was to a height of about 1 meter. So no saloon car was able to traverse that distance until the water subsides with about 3 hours. Now, what has happened there? Look at the left-hand side from the police area en route to Acho.
Yeah,
it's like a flat. It's a flat area which is a land reserve for the Atomic Commission. Yeah. It's slightly higher. So, in the wisdom of the engineering there, you see that the road has some culverts that's supposed to carry water from the left-hand side and then to the right-hand side. They will find themselves through to Abofu, Achimota to Abofu, and then to Caprice and to Odo. But strangely, almost about the last 1 year, a wall more than 300 meters long had been constructed facing the outlet of about 4 culverts. And the development just sprang like mushroom. So then you ask, are we going to have this issue resolved? Now we are depleting the top. We are taking almost all the green cover from the Pejuasi, Ayimensa, Kitasi, Brekusu, Amasaman, Pukwasi area, which is bringing the water so fast to Accra. And instead of actually trying to leave the buffer areas to actually hold the retention period, so the water does not just gush out of the areas to the road, we are at the same time blocking these areas. So now if this law is so explicit that if in fact you have a land as a developer, I would think that the land is a flood-prone area, that area is susceptible to flooding, and you do not do adequate re-engineering to ensure that you safely carry water to the lower point without any havoc, then the assemblies, see me for now, I will descend down to the engineers and then the physical planning authority. Have you seen that there are some areas in the built-up communities where the physical planning authorities at the assemblies are rezoning for industrial hub? They can zone 3 acres of land, 2 acres, to be an industrial hub in a residentially populated area, and a massive construction will be constructed there, like Kekeli was saying, and they will tie the whole place because it's a factory, it's a warehouse. And so if you tie all the area, you have reduced the rate of infiltration into the soil. And so all this water in a very wide catchment area will find themselves onto the highway and it will flood. You see, when the engineers construct most of the roads in Ghana, before an engineer goes, or a highway engineer, there's a team of engineers. There's a highway, there's a structures, there's a material engineer, there's a drainage engineer, and a hydro expert. Let's say they are constructing circle to Tantra or circle to Achimota. They would have to do an extensive survey, look at the most low-lying areas where the water can be channeled to peacefully without a problem. So if a road is constructed and completed, and after 5 years, that road suddenly start to experience massive flooding, you should be aware that the adjoining lands, where those waters were supposed to actually discharge slowly without any reverse flow, is where the problem has been created. And then the water will reverse. Once, let's say, 10,000 liters of water is supposed to go through a certain culvert, and by the design, it should take just about 5 minutes to traverse that distance. And that area has been narrowed. So the 30 minutes of how the water should have traveled will now become 2 hours. So the water will be retained on the road until that area, which is now small, allows the water to go in that discharge speed. So we have to look at the adjoining lands, what is actually happening within the catchment areas of all these roads constructed, and why after 4 or 5 years of the road. So it's not that the road was poorly constructed, but the activities, the facilities which are springing up like mushrooms at the culvert areas, the discharge points, are the ones which are now becoming a problem. And those problems had to be laid at the full steps of the assembly.
Hold on for me. Hold on for me, engineer. Yes, Kekeli.
Yeah.
Laid at the full steps of the assembly.
Yeah.
Why are the assemblies failing?
The failure of most of the assemblies, I don't know if you want to put it or really analyze it as multi-scalar. It comes from multiple scales. As you said, the political influences are one. And if you put the political influences even aside, sometimes the familial relations and all those kind of things, the point is that there is no enforcement of the laws. The zoning you talked about right now, before a zoning can be done, the District Spatial Planning Committee has to sit down. It comprises of engineers, planners, environmentalists, fire service department, and all these specialists. They go to the site, do environmental analysis, structural analysis, land use analysis, and all that. They come back to the assembly, sit down, and then based on the analysis, the committee does approve of it. So if you have developments coming up that are not approved, or some authorities, some officials in the assembly sometimes to do illegal stuff. They do some kind of, as my boss would say, clandestine mutilation of the plant. They hide and then change some of these uses. So one of the key solutions to the challenges we are having is citizen participation in policing the land uses.
So we don't understand it, so how can we police it?
So one, what the Land Use and Spatial Planning Act has proposed is that there should be a public data room where everyone can walk to and ask the assembly for the local plan for your area. Do you know the local plan for your area?
No.
Why don't you know?
I don't know where to go.
So you have to go to the physical planning department of the assembly. So when you go, the local plan of your area will show you where there are reservations, school, park, the school, churches, residential areas, industrial, like he was referring to. So if you are aware of these plans, then if you see any developments coming up, you can resist. The members of the community can collectively fight against these kind of development. So as we are saying, if you go to the Kobina area, you have rich people, churches, taking up all these lands and building. If you go there, so what can the community do? If they are aware of these plans for those areas, then they can resist. And the law too makes provisions that the individuals can take the assembly on where developments are coming up that have not been approved. So the new law actually helps with those provisions.
Okay.
But what I really want us to do, if we want to solve these kind of problems, is active citizen participation in the planning and monitoring of developments in our communities.
Is there like an open call for this? How do I know when they are meeting and I can attend?
Okay, so most of the time the assembly organizes meetings and all that. And even in the spatial planning committee meetings, they can corrupt people, they can organize it in the public. I think Takrade recently did one where they called almost all members of the community to come and see the permitting process so that they demystify the process as if it's just some special planners and engineers who go and sit somewhere and approve it. So I think that is one of the key ways to go. And then two, the assemblies too, when they prepare these local plans, aside the public data rooms, I think they can put it on these billboards where you usually advertise so that all members of the community can know that this is our local plan, this is where the school is supposed to be, this is where the market is supposed to be, this is where our houses, whatever, the road network is supposed to be. So that when people are developing or putting up a structure, the members of the community can resist. There are instances where parks, where younger folks play football. Once they are aware and real estate agents want to come and take up, they resisted. There are examples like that because they are aware. So if that is the way to go, then let's make it simple so that these local plans exist in the communities. And again, I think Citi FM does well in discussing some of these things, but I think that you have to give us more time to discuss some of these urban planning issues, because if we really want to develop without spatial planning, we should forget it, because the spatial planning gives manifestation to your economic policy, if it's job creation and all that. If it's your transportation network, the local plans or whatever, the structure plans will have to lay everything out before the engineers come in. If it's education, we have to do analysis, propose, do projection of the population, know the age cohort of the people who will be coming in, so that we prepare the infrastructure before the population even comes in. So we have prepared very good plans to guide development, but the main challenge is implementation. In the past, when the Spatial Planning Authority, Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, formerly Town and Country Planning Department, during the days of Nkrumah and the earlier years, once they prepared the plans, they were given funds to follow up. So if it's a road we want to construct in the plan, they were given the funds. But the period I call the silence period of planning, after the overthrow of Nkrumah until I think the early 90s, planning was almost dead, and that left a gap. And now planning is not given any priority. You go to the district assemblies, the largest source of IGF comes from spatial planning issues, permitting and all those things. But if it comes to funds to help them operate, monitor developments in the assemblies, even prepare the local plans in areas where they do not exist, you realize that the assemblies do not want to give them the money. So I think that the non-prioritization of spatial planning is a major challenge. Nkrumah's major development that he achieved was based on his physical plan, the 1963 plan for Ghana. Since then, who has done that again? So it shows you where the industrial hubs will be in Ghana, Tema, Akosumbo, whatever. And there were a number of industries. Even the Bui Dam was in that plan, the 1963 physical plan. So that should be the starting point. If you want to industrialize, where is your physical plan? If you want environmental protection, where is your green infrastructure network? So these are the basics. Then if you have the plans, implementations will come in. But all the agencies under the assembly should go by these spatial plans because they are part of it and they should work with it. But you have a challenge where sometimes you realize that the various departments will be doing things in silo. But ideally, if you go to all the advanced countries and their cities, New York, London, whatever, the plan is what the metropolitan, how do you call it? Their transportation networks.
Everything is interlinked.
Everything is integrated. If it's environment, is there. If it's water protection, is there. If it's transportation, is there. So the lack of this plan is an issue. And when the plan exists, financing it also becomes a problem. If we, Tamale recently prepared a very beautiful one by the Singaporeans. But since then, I think 2019 till date, what major projects will you see that government is funding or the assembly is funding based on those plans? These same Singaporeans prepared plan for Kigali because they funded and implemented. Now everyone is talking about Rwanda. So I think these are some of the key issues.
Engineer Mama.
Kekeli was mentioning, the good processes that are supposed to happen at the assembly. But I want him to know that the assemblies, some of them for 6 years, they've not even organized assembly meetings.
I think that is a key issue. So, Engineer Mahama, when you look at the law, now it says that at least for every month, the assembly is supposed to organize one meeting. So in a year, minimum 12. We did a recent monitoring in 2019, and we realized that out of the minimum number, it was only Secondary Takrade that was able to organize one. So that was an issue. So, Engineer Mahama, you realize that most of these developments, what you talked about, probably do not even have permits, that they are doing that. That's why we, the citizens who are concerned, should form some kind of a collective active group to continuously advocate and then work on these things. Other than that, the forces that have the money will continue to do what they want, and we all suffer.
I'll make a proposal. I'll make a proposal to Godfred. Like today, the LGBT took over the program, and it's rightly so because of the sensation involved in it. Like we said, we need to have, if Citi FM, Citi TV can be giving us ample time, like even if it's even 1 hour within every week or every other week, where we'll take assembly by assembly. Trust me and the way I see Kekeli talk, we can digest every assembly into details. And then when we are doing that, you may request the presence of the physical planning officer of that assembly and then the engineer. And then based on, we are all professionals, and they will deal with it. Because when you talk about the permit, I just want to, because you don't have time, let me just ask these two questions. I have decided that coming next week I'm going to take one of my assemblies on. I've arranged with the lawyers so that we can take some, because I've seen a physical structure which is sitting on a waterway around Dobro. And matters are tried to ask along the highway, in fact, taking part of government reserve land, blocking a culvert under the highway, and that developer had the guts to tell the MMC that he will not demolish the structure. And for the past 9 months, that structure is sitting on that parcel of land blocking a culvert. So I want, if anybody is listening and who want to be interested to help me as a lawyer, I am more than ready. If there's any fee, I would pay. Because I'm going to take that one and at least serve an example as an engineer, an independent engineer, to a whole community, so that the engineers or the assemblies will sit down. Because the permit, the Special Planning Act, which was passed in 2016, is an embodiment of development. Everything you want to see in Ghana is in that book. It's a fine document. And clause 13 states that, 113 says, a person shall not undertake any physical development of a land within a district unless that person has been issued with a permit by the district assembly within the jurisdiction in which that land is situated. This gentleman I'm talking about doesn't have a permit. And the assembly has been there like 4 times. I have been there like 6 times. Because I'm not working in the assembly without the power, I need to use the processes. But now, when you finish that one and you go to the clause 121, it says that if that said developer had developed a land without any approval or any permit, an unauthorized officer may without notice effect or carry out instant prohibition, abatement, alteration, removal, or demolition of that structure if that structure is considered as a nuisance. And a building sitting on a flat course, causing flood, is a nuisance to the environment. But that gentleman was able to tell as MMDC and then the committee, including the physical planning officer, that he will not remove that structure. And 9 months on, that structure is there, is springing up.
Okay, we will fully support you in that particular endeavor so that the people who are living there do not suffer. But I've run out of time. Thank you very much, Ekele Amejo, and Engineer Mahama Abdullahi, Road and Building Engineer. This is how we'll end the big issue for today. My name is Godfred Akoto Boafo. Have a good weekend.